After recent events, the Hollywood media seem on the back foot. They don't quite know what to make of things. With Jimmy Kimmel getting sidelined for his abhorrent comments, they suddenly realised they're not untouchable. This was the first time in a while that presenting factually incorrect information actually had consequences for one of them. And they were so secure in their position as sort of the dominant arbiters of entertainment that they found out that was a fantasy, just like the rest of their beliefs. This has led to a whole spate of articles desperately trying to theorize about what the problem is and how can we fix it, while others, such as Andor writer Dan Gilroy, wrote something that I can only describe as romantasy fan fiction, where it's just desperately longing for the boot. The majority in Hollywood believed their job was entertainment, but for everyone, this has suddenly become Westworld real. This is the most sophisticated, venomous, creeping evil in America's history. Feminine. Oh, no, that's not what it's talking about. There's no standing above, no impartial observers. If you're on the sidelines, you've made a choice and have to live with it. Educate yourself, organize, speak truth to authority. Which proves that he doesn't actually believe in anything he said before, because if you thought any of that was true, you wouldn't dare speak truth to the authority. But there seems to be, laughably, quite a wide-ranging opinion within Hollywood itself, and the media. And while Dan seemingly decided to vibrate himself silly over this, make his computer monitor look like a plasterer's radio, others at the Hollywood Reporter took a sort of different tactic to it. They've noticed the same thing, they're talking about the same thing, but this is about how can we get everyone back on the reservation. I am about as eager to watch 4chan the motion picture as anyone else. Bet they wouldn't have any problem with a movie about Reddit though. They'd be like, oh, those are actually some really sensible, intelligent folk. But what comes out of those dark recesses is certainly worth dramatizing, and, grim as it may be to do so, understanding. Much of that responsibility must fall to journalists. I'd stick you up chimneys, not because we've had a sudden spurt of traditionalism in the country and suddenly need a load of extra chimney sweeps, just because that's where you'll do the least damage. Those brave enough to traverse the internet wilds and report back their findings. The journalists. Before, brave adventurers would travel out into the world, fight dragons and mythical creatures, save damsels in distress from castles and their villains. And now, they read 4chan for a bit. What does he mean? Dogging. To help interpret, say, meme language etched onto bullets. Oh, you don't need to go onto there for that. Just ask any of your friends from California or Portland. They'll know. No, the Hollywood Reporter thinks it's a big deal that films don't capture online life, that current events continue to remind us that millions of young people are living much of their lives online, and more movies should reflect that reality. That sounds like a living hell to me. I don't want Facebook the video game. But they don't even make the argument that these kind of movies would improve the quality of entertainment. Instead, they more bemoan the lack of influence that they have over people, that a gap is ever widening between traditional art forms on one side, Hollywood, mainstream TV, newspapers, media like the Hollywood Reporter, compared to the vast jumble of internet ephemera on the other, user-generated content, from normal people. Basically, anything else they can't control, which also allows the truth to come out. That stark distinction used to make more sense back when whatever happened online stayed there, and everything else in the culture was we determined, he means he determined, his side determined, what really held a mirror up to life. He's talking about a time before the internet when the only funnel of information came through them, when movies, sitcoms, and newspapers did genuinely control the culture, because nobody had other avenues of information. Whatever they decided to push was the mainstream idea everybody else had to keep up with. They would push stories at you that fit in their narrative and ignore everything else. There's actually been YouTube videos done by journalists in the past that spoke about the importance of gatekeeping.
And in the middle, you've got journalists sorting through what's important. This is called gatekeeping, and it's one of the most important things journalists do.
It's a journalist's job to filter the information that you receive.
Ultimately, it's the journalists who decide what's newsworthy enough to pay attention to. But that is in an ideal world, and we don't live in an ideal world. We live in hell.
Because you're just too stupid to sort out the truth for yourself.
Which was described as a way to get around the, quote, prejudices of network news selectors. Wow, nightmares really do come true.
Whereas when they controlled everything, they could actually control your reality. As if you don't know something basically doesn't exist.
It's a network that was founded by political operatives. It has a partisan operative mentality, and it works.
This is even stated later down the article. The film barely mentions the internet, and yet its presence as a culture-shaping force is felt throughout. It is implied in the terrifying power of the military and police, but without the internet, could they have marshaled enough public support to install them in office? The media in Hollywood are beginning to realise they're a relic of the past. I think this started with last year, when all the celebrities came out and pushed for one person to win, and they lost.
Hi, Avengers!
How about we start with what our voting plans are going to be, who we're going to bring to the polls.
There's got to be a hit to the ego. Just think about all the activism that you go out, the importance that you put on virtue signaling. Then you realise nobody cares. All that time you go to the award ceremonies and speak about your important personal issues. One of the things about virtue signaling is it needs an audience to go, well done, you're so brave.
Finally, go birds, guys!
And if you realise that saying that opinion actually harms you with the majority of people, well, now you're just on the wrong side of history.
Really wish that we could get it to you guys, but we need to stand on the right side of history.
But one of the things about virtue signaling is it's a communal force. You're required to have your morality given to you by other people. You just believe what everyone else does, which is why Hollywood and this media can't understand the other side. And because they can't understand it, the best thing that they can do is to try and create a false imitation of it inside their already existing halls of power.
The point is pretending that it matters, so voters at home think it does too.
And it won't work because even they don't like it. It is entirely possible that Eddington was simply the victim of early arrival. A market for films that grimly satirise or otherwise confront the swirling nightmare of the internet. How are you ever going to comprehend something that you consider a swirling nightmare? And why do you think that people want it to be grimly satirised or confronted? It's because it doesn't agree with them. And as they can only exist in the bubble of what everyone else agrees with them on, venturing out into disagreement is dangerous and dark. It's a swirling nightmare for them. When I first watched Eddington, I found it irksome, off-putting. It was only on second watch that I realised that at least some of that distaste was the film achieving its intended effect. My repulsion was one of recognition. Not just saying that integrating this into movies won't make it better. It actively repulses the people that it's targeted for. He pitches this integration as if it'll attract the other side. They'll watch the movies and realise that that evil internet is just brainwashing them, and if only they listen to CNN, it'll be better.
This is the kind of hacky nonsense that good gatekeeping is supposed to protect us from.
But even his own entertainment repulses him. The film offers the opposite of escapism, which is what we so often seek from movies, and exactly what we don't get. And it's because of people like this writer. They're obsessed with putting their own stuff into the movies themselves, and yet even when they ask for a countercultural force to be put in the movies, yeah, but we want it to be adapted from our point of view, the same one that pushed everyone away from the movies to begin with. We actually have examples of some of the kind of things that Richard's probably thinking about. He talks about Eddington, but we also had American Sweatshop come out this year. A social media moderator is tasked with purging the most offensive content from the internet. She should be at home with kids, but instead, she's online looking at Pepe memes. Oh, look at him. He thinks men exist. The kind of person that thinks the most dangerous thing on the internet is male bonding. She'd have a nervous breakdown if she was in a Call of Duty lobby for 5 minutes. If she saw someone wearing a cross-cultural Halloween costume, she'd have to take a break and stare at herself on the sofa. Even the reviews go, oh, why do you like it? Well, this is a timely drama about content moderation. It's an examination of content moderators' mental health and a semi-tense cyber thriller at its worst. They don't like the movie. The reason they gave it fresh is because they think the topic's important. Wades into the cesspool of social media, softens its cynical edges while exploring the ugly moral ambiguities of online voyeurism and capitalism. If you didn't already grasp the toxicity of online culture, this one's for you.
They're finding a weak point and then they're hammering it very, very relentlessly.
This thriller isn't very thrilling, but just look at the ways the problematic internet content affects them. Abandons the drama in favour of a weaker, promising young woman-like revenge tale that squanders the potentially fascinating psychological drama with social media instincts. That's the kind of thing that this article wants you to watch. Barren harpies who can't comprehend what they're reading, over-obsessing on the modern equivalent of curtain twitching. These people used to just stare out the window at the neighbours, oh, I wonder what she's bringing into her house. Whereas now they just enjoy spying on what other people are saying. The other equivalent would be something like The Savant, where she also tracks online groups to stop domestic extremists, which is interesting, given that we have many excellent, well-known, and extremely recent examples of this. The Savant won't be looking at any of those. It won't be focusing on the actual problems, because it's done from the wrong perspective. And this is what the article can't comprehend. They can only look at the internet from within Hollywood's framing and what all of their friends think. And so it doesn't matter what they integrate into that, it will always be done from the wrong side.
This is the kind of hacky nonsense that good gatekeeping is supposed to protect us from.
And they won't be able to fix this until they get better people who contrast that worldview into Hollywood. And that won't happen because they can't comprehend that worldview. To them, it's just a swirling nightmare. Oh, everyone's disagreeing with me. The most vexing thing about the recent recent assassination was a general illiteracy regarding online culture. Its memes, codes, and ideologies. No, we knew what they were. Your friends would have known what they were as well. I imagine they're very proficient in noticing bulges. But this is a significant aspect of culture that seems siloed off from everything else. This writer views their morality as the default. It's not political, it's just correct. They don't realise that they're living in a false perceptional reality they've made for themselves. Has no relation to actual reality. They gaze upon all truth, and it's bewildering to them, confusing. I just can't comprehend it. It's not that there's a culture siloed off from them. It's just that entering it would shatter all of the carefully created mental hoops that they've jumped through recently. And so we talked about Eddington, how that deals with extremism, and the steadily mounting distrust with which Americans feel towards one another. I can't imagine why that's happening. Bearing in mind, this was written on the 18th. That was after recent major events and the fallout of it. Maybe if one half of America stopped cheering on crimes against the other one, they'd like you more. Just from an outsider's perspective, obviously. Maybe Eddington was simply ahead of its time. Perhaps in another 5 years, audiences will feel ready to examine what we're currently living through. This is just the progressive march through history.
I feel like history is on a progressive trajectory, and it might get knocked sideways now and again. I hope that in 20 years' time, we're talking about, these culture wars as something of the past.
I believe we will.
Everything in the future gets better, everything in the past gets worse. Essentially, there's a right side of history, and they're always on it.
Tiny bunch of little whinging are on the wrong side of history, and they'll all go away soon.
When hopefully there's no longer such a bitter sting of relevance. We'll have moved on to that then, we'll have been even more extreme. They'll have destroyed even more things. The things they've destroyed in the past will just become normal. Like or the public's general distaste for being confronted with tetchy societal issues will still prevail. In other words, people really don't like being called bigots, do they? I should be able to call them bigots, and they should like it. They should go and watch the media that I make calling them bigots.
Some of the fan base just sickened me to my stomach. You're no Star Wars fan in my mind.
The Star Wars fan base really seems to be the most kind of toxic.
An infinite lack of self-awareness. It's like Satan looking out of hell at all the normal people and thinking, I'll never understand why those people go to church. Doom scrolling should be done on one's phone at home, not out in the world among other people. We're meant to be making entertainment, but we have to use it to educate and teach people. So he's even thinking of his own movies as doom scrolling. And then he's wondering why people won't pay after they've been to work all day to earn the money to do the equivalent of doom scrolling. Such atomization is a metastasizing problem, a gap ever widening. Essentially, movies, newspapers, all the institutional power that they have is losing relevance because of the internet. And they're not reliant on institutions which have been gifted authority by the state to actually act as the ministry of truth for them. That means everything they've said is analysed, discussed, and found to be wanting. And it's no wonder whether the sides have atomized based on whether they read the institution's propaganda or not. I mean, you could just look at the words, frequency of words noting prejudice in New York Times and Washington Post, and you could just see the graphs spike around 2010 or earlier. They all go up at the same time in the same frequency. The antis went down as the phobics went up, and they thought that was more powerful. And even if you want to ignore the New York Times and the Washington Post, and you go to just 47 of the popular news media outlets, it follows the same path for all of them. Yeah, I'm not surprised if you have this information beamed into your eyeballs every day for the last 15 years, that you're atomized away from the normal, rational people who believe in truth.
The point is pretending that it matters, so voters at home think it does too.
It's not that all of these people suddenly appeared in 2010. It's just that you decided to start talking about it and eventually turn your audience into such rabid lunatics that they start taking shots. I'm not sure that the people that did this can't be the ones that complain about atomization, radicalization, or that normal people didn't follow them. And they can't just make movies that lie to people anymore. People don't go. They have other options. Because we spend more time online now, in places that they can't control, it's disingenuous and out of touch to insist in film that internet usage is merely an isolated distraction, especially at a time when violent action so often germinates in it. Yeah, from the side that agrees with Hollywood, but they don't want to niche down or analyze any further of exactly where it's coming from. They want to abstract it out, broaden it to just the internet, because that allows them to not take any responsibility or think about the logical conclusions of your worldview. And once you've abstracted it to such a vague degree that it's utterly meaningless, that's when you can make your movies such as American Sweatshop or The Savant, where you're basically hunting people who either don't exist or haven't caused any problems, and through that blame allows them to pitch their solution, that you should have lesser, miserable people watching over you and judging things they can't comprehend. If they can't even understand how men communicate in a video game, I don't trust you to judge anything else. Eddington is an awful collision of the virtual and the actual, depicting a horror scenario in which the whole of the internet descends on one small town, and yet nobody wanted to go and see it, perhaps discouraging other filmmakers from trying to do the same. Good. He even says it himself. It's a messy movie. Why would we replicate a badly made movie? But at least Astor is trying to describe the double consciousness of the modern era, so it's crap, but at least he tried. It's not the quality that's important to him in a movie, it's not how entertaining it is, it's that somebody tried to make a movie which instilled the political worldview that he wants in movies. Now, I appreciate that he doesn't understand there is a double consciousness in modern society, a disorientation of tangible reality with essentially a perceptional one. He's just got them flipped round which one it is. He thinks the perceptional one is the one talked about on the computers, and the tangible reality, the one he believes in. No. The people that believe men and women exist are on the internet, and all the ones that think that you can be anything you want to be as long as you can imagine it, well, they're the ones that you talk to in Hollywood. These aren't two worldviews between what people speak about in real life and the internet. These worldviews are split between truth, reality, and what you decided with all your friends that you should believe this week. But this puts the art form on a hopefully slow, but who knows these days, course towards obsolescence. It's afraid.
It's afraid. It's afraid!
They know that all the institutions they control are losing relevance, losing power, and have absolutely nothing to do with the mainstream majority of society. But their solution, they're not going to try and understand these people. No. Instead, it's just to become a simulacrum of what they don't understand. We could, put text popping up on the screen. That'll really get those internet users over to the cinema. Yeah, please, put up a like and subscribe in the middle of a video. That'll make me feel right at home. You know, Mission Impossible used AI, and it was the worst part of the movie, actually. Megan didn't the second one of that flop? But the medium needs more than just a handful of attempts to capture this enormous, burgeoning facet of 21st century living. If part of a film's job is to illuminate the breadth of human experience, then it's failing in a crucial way. Putting more mobile phones and computer monitors in your movie won't make them better. It won't make them connect more with people. The internet isn't some strange, weird thing that's separate from everything else. It's still people on it. What's important about it is the exchange of information. It's the truth which is held on it that should be put into movies. Can't understand that to improve your movies, you have to improve the morality of them. You actually have to make the morality more applicable to normal people, not Hollywood, not your little bubble that you're so comfortable in and don't want to leave. I'm about as eager to watch 4chan motion picture as anyone else. He doesn't even like his own idea. But what comes out of those dark recesses is worth dramatizing, and grim as it may be to do so, understanding. This is how they think about trying to understand the majority of the country. They know that the Hollywood mentality is a small, niche, extreme, radical view that nobody likes, which is why they're scaring all their customers away. They understand in some kind of way that they have to actually reflect the majority in the movie for them to like it, but they view this opposite morality as a dark recess that is grim to even consider. That responsibility must fall to the journalists, those brave enough to traverse the internet wilds and report back their findings. Like they're out on safari, they'll leave their hug box of blue sky and venture out onto Twitter and Facebook to see what some Christians think, staring at them through their binoculars as they try and comprehend their mating rituals. They'll try and get David Attenborough to do a voiceover. And now, as we observe Twitter, we see them discussing the wild claim that you shouldn't cut your dick off. But art ought to tangle with this stuff more thoroughly. I don't think this is art you're talking about, it's propaganda.
Art is not activism. I'm not sure what it is. I just know it's not these things.
Immediately mentions adolescence. I rest my case. The upcoming Apple show, The Savant, is just keep proving me right. It will be interesting to see if the creators are willing to show the true depravity lurking in frighteningly accessible corners of the internet. Anyone that disagrees with me is depraved. I can't imagine why Hollywood's losing relevance, or if they will, like so many others, sand things down just enough to make it more palatable. The Savant is only talking about one kind of internet extreme. Kirk's alleged killer, is it not, of that same ilk? No, he's of yours. There have now been several cases of it happening from the side that agrees with Hollywood. Not a single shop was boarded out because they thought people would actually respond, but he is one of many thousands, if not millions, of young men who ventured onto the web in their teens and never returned. See, it's just men. Just generic men, which are the problem. Now it makes sense why you brought up adolescence. You were preparing to excuse this. You see, it couldn't be his fault. It couldn't be his beliefs. It couldn't be the natural conclusion of what Hollywood has been pushing on people. No, it's just got to be men in general. Abstract it down so we can't actually find the real problem And that allows us to go off in incorrect directions, like what little we know of his ideology seems steeped in the argot of online gamer culture, because he put some arrows in from Helldivers 2. He didn't get on a roof because of Helldivers 2, you lunatics. He got it because it was a natural conclusion of the Hollywood belief system, the Portland belief system.
Ultimately, it's the journalists who decide what's newsworthy enough to pay attention to. The point is pretending that it matters, so voters at home think it does too.
But no, it's just gamers. A tongue foreign to many of us. Men talking to each other is foreign to... Actually, yeah, probably in the Hollywood entertainment industry. Not much testosterone in there, I agree. This might blow your mind, but when men communicate with each other, they say hurty words to each other intentionally as friends. If you're friends with a bloke and he's not insulting you, he actually doesn't like you. That's how men test the other men around them to make sure that they're strong enough to guard their backs in a dangerous situation. But you wouldn't understand that when testosterone is an alien creature to you. It's a dark chemical I don't understand. The world he lived in should probably not feel so alien. It's about 35 to 40% of the entire world plays video games. 2.7 billion global gamers. And you're just like, it's so alien. Yeah, to you. And to the people that you know. And because you live in a world where your morality comes from everyone you know, anything that you don't do, you're like, that's strange, dangerous, and dark and evil. When actually, no, you're just out of touch. You're on the wrong side of history. Film is an inherently sluggish medium. It takes time to make up, and thus commentary is usually delayed by a few years. You shouldn't be making commentary about gaming. You should be commenting on the exceptions of morality, what it means to be human in this situation. If I go into space and meet this alien and he does evil to me, am I right in defending myself? These are the kind of ideas that are timeless. Not, should I be saying hurty words in a COD lobby? Is it okay to culturally appropriate a Halloween costume? And he's like, well, one of the problems is you can't compellingly dramatize a person sitting, reading, and typing. How are you so bad at this? If you wanted to do a commentary on the internet, they don't actually have to be sitting at a computer. You can actually abstract the ideas from there, the thing that you want to talk about online, and you could set it in a brand new situation. How do you think Star Trek did it? But because they're defined by what everyone else believes, they can't be creative. They can't make new situations. They lost the ability to abstract and be creative. They can only think in literal terms, because anything else is dangerous, risky, and probably immoral into their own worldview. So it's like, no, if I have to talk about a computer, I can only talk about a computer. Gotta be like Ready Player One. Something must be figured out, though. It's increasingly untenable to make convincing films about the here and now, particularly about contemporary politics, which is why they're interested. It's not talking about media because they enjoy movies and entertainment and enjoy using that to test different scenarios and pass down experience to other people. Instead, it's, oh, how can we control the culture using it? I'm involved in movies so that I can use it for a purpose. This is a common sentiment that you see in a few people, Kurtzman and Star Trek. It's just a platform I can push politics with. Even confirms it in the next sentence. We can't make convincing film about this without somehow incorporating this huge incubator of ideology.
This is the kind of hacky nonsense that good gatekeeping is supposed to protect us from.
They don't understand that it's truth. It's not an ideology. You have an ideology. You're the one that believes all these fake ideas that you have to convince yourself of and indoctrinate yourself into. And that need will only intensify as the people of Gen Z and Gen Alpha grow older. And the world is suddenly contending with adults who are weaned on Wi-Fi. It's afraid. We managed through all our institutions before to control people's development and what they think. You teach people at a young age something and they often believe it for the rest of their life and never go back and analyze what they were taught as a younger stage. But now there are generations which have been weaned on the internet. They could have been able to find truth themselves. They didn't need to filter their information through Hollywood. And they're realizing that that is going to be an ever-increasing amount, and their current stories do not work for people that understand truth. Not just doesn't work, the lies that Hollywood tells them repulse them. When they see a story that represents evil as good, it repulses them. Maybe some of them will make the art that reflects their half-digital existences, but I suspect the ones to be most concerned about won't bother sharing their thoughts. They know they're about to lose generations of people that will never care about them. They are so thoroughly outside the pipeline of lies that they simply look on that pipeline with disdain, and they'll never even bother to interact with it. I've said for a while that one of the things Hollywood needs to do is get rid of the writers and hire people who actually represent the audience. But this article is saying that those people wouldn't even bother writing for Hollywood. They are so far removed from it, they don't even think Hollywood is required anymore. They don't see it as worth their time. What we are likely to be served are movies that allegorize or gesture towards internet culture, rather than address it literally. I love how he thinks how literally is the best thing. It's the only thing that he can understand. Of course he prefers it. We couldn't have abstracted it into an original idea like humans have done throughout all of history. I hate to tell you, mate, but the story about Norse gods were probably allegories and references to things, not actually literal truth. They were instead meant to pass down information through their followers to help them to survive the dangerous world. That's the purpose of stories. Stories are not meant to be literal. That's a documentary. And even when they are literal, like Eddington, he found it off-putting, irksome. It repulsed him. The film offers the opposite of escapism, which is what we seek. But you're well past the point at which this is possible. Pandora has opened her box and its ills are fully integrated into our world. They should probably be in our movies too. There are so many people that disagree with him. The entire world has turned and he knows it. Knows they're learning relevance. He's like, oh, maybe we should put some of that in the movies. And I do think it'd work. If Hollywood set up base studios full of based people and they made movies for the male audience, we're going to rescue a damsel in distress. There's going to be some TNA character who's only there for the male gaze. And the main male hero is just going to slaughter everything in his path for glorious vengeance and justice in honor of his king, then yes, that'd be a great movie. It's like a medieval John Wick. In that regard, if you did integrate the people that disagreed with you into your world, you'd make better stuff, and they'd watch it. But it would mean that Hollywood have to give up control, and they're not willing to. They want to integrate the dark reality of the internet, the actual truth of the world into the movies, but only from their perspective, with their people and all of their DEI regulations. They haven't yet realized that looking at the world through that lens is what destroys the truth to begin with. It's what makes movies impossible to be good in the first place. He hasn't yet realized that it's his very own belief system, the lens he looks at the world through, which is what repulses him and makes it off-putting and irksome, and nobody wants to pay to see it. We're at a point now where Hollywood is failing so badly, losing so much money, that they know something is wrong, they know they need to change somehow, and they kind of realize that everything over there matters, but they're not desperate enough yet to realize that they're the problem, and that the very dark, nasty world online, which radicalizes people into doing horrific things like we've seen over the last week, that it's all coming from the people that agree with Hollywood, the people that agree with the media, and that the call is coming from inside the house. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.